Hey everybody, and welcome back to Legendary Language Learner. I'm Matthew Boyle, and I'm here today with Vickie Kelty from Yes, Still Talking. Vickie and I first connected when we found out that we have a mutual interest in learning languages through games. And she had me on her channel to talk about that. And she recently went on the channel Leo Listening and provided a lot of valuable ideas for language learning games there. So today I expressly invited Vickie on to talk with me about something different, and that is the intersection of language learning and entrepreneurship. I want to learn all about her views on that because this is another place where our lives overlap. So if you are a creative, small business owner, or maybe a teacher or a coach in the language learning space, I'm confident you're really going to appreciate today's video. So before we jump in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your comments below. Vickie, thank you so much for coming on. It's wonderful to have you here. And could you please introduce yourself to our audience?
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Matthew. I had a great time last year getting to interview you over on my YouTube channel because obviously I love the work that you do with language card games. I always have them here on hand, and with Legendary Language Learner as well, which had just started up when we interviewed. So that was like
Right, that's right.
perfect.
Groundbreaking news. Mm.
Yeah. And so little introduction, I'm Vickie, as you said, from Lincoln, Nebraska, founder of Yes, Still Talking, where I help bring ease and laughter to English fluency. I try to keep it seriously fun for my students. But basically, my mission there is to show adults that activities, specifically speaking games, are not just for kids. They are for everybody. So.
That's awesome. Now, I feel like sort of in the positive sense, the elephant in the room here is that you have moved abroad. You have become an expat, and I felt that we couldn't skip over that. So could you tell us what set you on your journey abroad? I think you moved to Spain just a few years before I moved to China, and we've both been abroad ever since.
Yeah, so I actually started kind of like doing study abroad trips when I was in the university, and I was a month in Mexico, and then 4 months or so in Costa Rica, and then even after I finished university, I ended up going to Spain, and I was always thinking that my next trip to a Spanish speaking country would like perfect my Spanish. And that's how I ended up in Spain. But the funny thing was that I was led to teaching English through that country hopping journey. It's like my intention, I thought, was to perfect my Spanish, but it ended up giving me the opportunity to teach English. Not that I don't work on Spanish.
So originally, you mean at the outset, you were hoping to go to Spain to really develop your Spanish even further, but what ended up happening maybe at the same
Yeah,
time?
I thought that that's what I needed.
Uh-huh. So
Yeah.
so you've been there for so many years. What ended up happening in the years after you went?
Well, I started being a language assistant while I was here, which in Spain terms is you're basically like the sidekick to the main teacher, the main English teacher in the schools.
Mhm. I see. But were you able to improve your Spanish as you expected and hoped?
I think that was really the key to everything, because
Mm.
it just hit me one day that it wasn't actually being in Spain that helped me to perfect my Spanish. It
Mm.
was me and my mindset and my way of
Uh-huh.
thinking about how I can perfect it and what perfect it
Uh-huh.
means to me personally.
I think I know what
So
you're
I'm
alluding to here because I experienced something very similar, but I'm not going to get into that. I want to segue into the
oh.
next question and let you keep
Well,
shining.
we'll leave everybody hanging
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we'll explore that a little bit more as we go on here, and it may relate to this next question. So, can you talk about how the idea for your company, Yes, Still Talking, came about, and how did that relate to your life as an expat and living in Spain?
Yeah, well, it connects really well to the fact that I was a language assistant, and I felt like I was the Robin to the English teacher's Batman,
Uh-huh,
and I wanted to be Batman. I wanted to be the
uh-huh,
head,
uh-huh,
the focus. So
uh-huh,
I branched out on my own, and I really wanted the emphasis to be on speaking.
mhm,
And I'm
mhm,
kind of sometimes, a, it's not a bad thing, but I'm like a very cheery,
uh-huh,
peppy person.
yeah,
And I really wanted that reflected as well, because I find that like cheerleader, happy attitude is encouraging and motivating,
mhm.
and that's what I wanted to bring to people's English speaking life.
You know, I get that feeling a lot from your website and your posts and your resources, and I also have felt, you know, I have to continually reflect on, is my company and my products and my services, is it reflecting my personality and who I am? It's very important for that to have that integrity so that you get the results you want and hope for, and you're not pretending to be something you're not.
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that everybody that I work with has my personality, not at
Mhm,
all.
mhm,
But it means that my personality brings out like the
mhm,
best in their English speaking.
mm. That's really cool. So how did you choose this name? I think it's really cool and really fashionable. It reminds me of like a super cool band name. Yes, exclamation point, still talking. How did you choose that? And what does it mean exactly? The names of my companies were something that I agonized over and probably thought way too much about. How did you deal with that?
Well, I also went through that journey of agonizing over it. And what ended up happening was I was watching an episode of the TV show Friends,
Uh-huh.
and the character Monica was talking, and her brother Ross, for those who don't watch the show, interrupted her, and she basically kind of shushed him and said something to the effect of lips moving, still talking. And I was like, oh, that's it. Yes, still talking.
I
And
love
that
that.
is
That's
the
great.
hilarious story of how it came about.
I love it.
Because
I love
I
it.
wanted to give that
Yeah.
feeling of no, I'm still talking. I'm not
Mhm.
giving up. I'm keeping going. I'm just
Yeah. I really caught that feeling from it. It has a boldness and a confidence and a humor inside of it. You know, right away you catch that feeling. So I think it's really catchy. It works really well.
thanks.
Um, so what kind of resources and services do you offer through Yes Still Talking?
Well, I do have some very specialized Friends speaking programs for Friends fans, but that's kind of like my secret little
Great
stash of
niche.
speaking programs.
Mhm,
But mainly I offer specialized lessons for individual students and companies, and I those specialized lessons incorporate the FUN formula, which is the method I use to take my clients speaking from hesitant to unstoppable. I'm going to take over the world with my English speaking. Just trying to create this atmosphere and environment of being an independent English speaker, because I want to give them the ability to go out and speak English without me being there. The main things that I do within those lessons that I mentioned is to use the FUN formula with game nights that could be like a murder mystery or a night of taboo. And then another thing that I offer is speaking programs, and my biggest one, I guess you could say, is my Flipgrid speaking program. So it's done through, I don't know if you know the platform Flipgrid, but basically it's done with recordings. So the student does recordings on their own time. They just, are at the beach with their phone and record the answer that they want to the prompt that I gave them. And then I give them feedback, and that's how we
I haven't heard of that, but that sounds super convenient. I believe that's something my teaching friends and I could start to use.
For sure.
Now we're actually going to go a little bit deeper into that, what you do with these people, these students, and how do you help them. But really quickly, before we go on, I kind of want to shoehorn this question in here and ask, where should people go to find you online? Where do you live online?
I live mostly at Instagram. You'll find a lot of, basically because I like the stories. Although now that Twitter has the like fleets that they do, I also have started dabbling with those fleet things, but I'm mostly over at Instagram. That's where I am most active. And you can find me over almost any social media platform under the handle Yes Still Talking. So.
Yeah, and I just want to say to everybody who's watching that Vickie makes a lot of fun and really joyful posts, and I catch your stuff all the time. You're very active across all those platforms, and I constantly want to see what you're up to and check on them, because you're really brimming with positivity. So kudos to you for keeping all those active. I know it can be kind of a handful at times, but I hope
for sure. I definitely have taken advice from other entrepreneurs, and I do try to focus my time on one. I'll post some things around the other ones, but people,
so
you got to stick to one, because otherwise you'll go crazy.
Yeah. So Instagram is the one that you like the most and use the most?
Yeah, for whatever reason, I just kind of gravitated to Instagram. At first I liked Facebook more, and now I'm like in an Instagram phase.
Yeah.
Check in with me in a year. We'll see where I'm at.
I've moved around a little bit too, all part of the process.
Yeah, you have to find the one that you feel most comfortable with. You feel can spread your spread what you want to spread to everybody just most comfortably. That's, I think, with social media, they can be not fun, and so I want to have fun when I'm telling people about something that I find fun.
That's a great point. Yeah. You want it to be fun when you're interacting and using that platform, when you're creating content on that platform. You don't want it to be like, oh, I feel like
I don't
dirty
want people to
having
get the feeling
interacted
of
with us.
like, oh, she's forced to be here. She's under duress. No.
Yeah, I feel that way sometimes. This is actually segueing into my next question, which is, I mean, you just dropped a gem there about how we should regard the different platforms. What did your work on Yes Still Talking all of these years teach you?
I know that I've mentioned that I'm a happy, bubbly person, and I like to transmit that because that's how I feel on the inside. But being alone, working by yourself as an entrepreneur can be and feel really lonely and can be really confusing if you don't have people to bounce ideas off of and someone who understands what you're going through. So for me, especially this last year, having a teaching community like the Smart Teachers Library that I'm currently a member of, it's run by Elena Motonono, that can really be just so valuable and necessary
Mhm.
when being an entrepreneur. And I think that that's the biggest thing, that I don't have to do this by myself. There are
Mhm.
other people doing this and they can support me even from a distance. Those beginning years when I didn't reach out to anybody, I just I wish that I had.
Yeah, yeah,
Some people say, "Oh, I don't regret anything." Well, I regret not doing that. So
yeah.
don't be like me. Reach
That,
out to people, ask for
that's
help, find some kind of community. Even if it's finding somebody on Instagram who is an entrepreneur too, connect with them. Maybe you'll be able to swap ideas or at least just complain with each other.
I mean, it's really great advice because I feel like that can help you to enjoy the process and keep a balance in your heart and mind because there are
Keep going.
there's a lot of long hours sitting in front of screens, poking around, trying to figure out the platform or get your website right. And you do feel like you're alone in this. So you start
Yeah.
to not like the process as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a good reminder. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. And can you tell us maybe a little story about a time when your work and resources and services really helped someone, and what was that like?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think that the first thing that comes to mind, because it was so recent, was my murder mystery night that I did last year. It was the first one that I did. And it was just a big moment for me to be able to share a different sort of game night, because murder mystery nights happen all over the world, but to use it as a element for practicing English
Mhm.
and feeling like you're doing it in a really like native speaker way, if you want to say that,
Mhm.
because I wanted it to feel like this isn't something that's created for a language learner. I want you to feel like you are just part of a murder mystery night that anybody in Nebraska would have.
Mhm.
And so the next time you go to Nebraska or Texas or California, wherever you are headed, yes, those were all places in the States, or maybe you'll head to London.
Mhm.
Wherever you're headed, that you could participate in a murder mystery night and feel comfortable, feel confident, and
Mhm.
have an absolute blast. And like one of the things that I offer to show how the fun formula really works through games is the speaking game pack. And it has, like, here are some of the game cards that are, I've cut them up. You don't have to
Mhm.
do that, but
Mhm.
I go full on with my games. And so I've taken games that people know and adapted them so that they could be used for learning.
Mhm.
But the intention there is that little by little, you're progressing with the language and you're just going to take the game like Balderdash or Taboo or Yahtzee or whatever game it is, and use the version that you find on the internet. You don't have to have that adapted version.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've mentioned a couple in the recent questions I asked you, you mentioned a couple of, I think, really useful tips for language learners who want to do something in the way of small business or to become entrepreneurs. You mentioned it's good to have a support circle, a group who's trying to do things like that. And in this last answer, one thing that I noticed, and I've seen this, I've noticed this also in your work online, is that you're really good at drawing connections between different resources, different games, and how you could put that to use for your customers. You're really good at drawing those connections, making that like so often a novel idea is a synthesis of two or more like pre-existing ideas. And I feel like you're always on the lookout for how can you combine something and make something new that would help someone. So those are already two really great things that you do. Is there any other advice that you would give to a fledgling entrepreneur in the language learning arena?
Um, I think just what you're saying, like that's basically my main advice is, um, I guess just don't box yourself in.
Mhm.
And they know that there's not one way to do something.
Mhm.
And I think that it's something that you do really well as a coach, that you're not just the language coach, you also create language card games and you have the spell book. I mean, you just follow your passion wherever it leads you.
Mhm. Mhm. And so often I feel like we have to look around and decide which direction we want to go in, and then put the blinders on and put our heads down and work really hard. But we always have to remember to every once in a while step back, take those blinders off, look around. Are we going in the right way? Do we need to reassess things? And like you said, don't make sure you don't box yourself in or pigeonhole yourself. You may need to adapt. You may need to pivot. You may need to explore a new avenue, a new social media platform, or think about a new product or a service you could give, because the environment, the scene is ever changing. You can't just over focus on one thing that you think will work.
Yes. And along with that, that you don't need to feel the pressure that there's only one way to do something, or
Hmm.
that, like I started out with exam preparation because I thought that's what I had to do.
Uh-huh.
I was good at it and I still am good at it, but it wasn't meeting all of my needs as an English teacher. I knew that I had other things that added value to students' lives.
Mm-hmm.
And because of things that other people had told me, like you need to do it this way, this is how it works, that's what I did. But then when I gave myself the freedom to open my eyes and my heart to other ways of of teaching, that's when Yes Still Talking truly started to come
Mm-hmm.
about.
That's beautiful. And I had a similar thing happen to me, because when I was starting out with my first company, Language Card Games, the advice I kept tuning into was you should pick one very niche thing and focus on it very hard, so that way you can get, put yourself on the map and get noticed. And I did that
Yeah.
for years and I made a lot of games, but at the end of it, I was feeling like I was boxing myself in. I was pigeonholing
Exactly.
myself, and I wasn't enjoying things as much because I knew I had more to give. I wanted to write
Yes.
stories. I wanted to coach. I wanted to maybe make a board game. I wanted to branch out, and that's why I created the next one, Legendary Language Learner, because I just felt like I
Yeah.
was getting into a corner. So
Yeah.
for those of you out there watching, definitely remember, experiment, try something maybe pick something at first, work hard on it for a little while, but keep things free flowing, keep open-minded, let it be organic, let it be an enjoyable process.
Yes, and don't get, I guess, sucked into the idea that niching down and focusing on something means that just don't let niching down cut your wings.
I think I see what you mean there. And also maybe a good piece of advice here for people is it can relate to how you brand yourself and construct your website and things like that, because if you have a lot of different things that you want to do, sometimes you have to learn how to show that to your followers and your audience well, or else they get confused. That was also a worry that I had. So I just chose singularly games. But now I think more about how can I welcome people? Like, what's the door of my business? What does that look like? How do I welcome people in so they feel comfortable and they understand what I'm trying to do? And then once they come in, they see I have different types of offerings. How do you lay that out is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like I'm thinking, as you say that with the door, I'm like, for me, what I see with you is the magic of
Mm-hmm.
learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so that magic is transmitted through many different ways, but the magic is like the niche.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes we get boxed in by the word niche,
Yeah,
thinking
yeah,
that it needs to be this teeny tiny
super
little
specific.
thing like
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
card games, and it's not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really
So
cool.
I think that you've definitely, I love how it's evolved into you, and that it can incorporate all those things, and that doesn't mean that you don't have a focus. And
Yeah, yeah.
I really hope that people see that.
I was really happy when I hit upon that line, make language learning magical. And really it's become a motto and a mantra for my life now. And I feel it lines up my mind, body, spirit company very nicely. Because like you mentioned, I think you mentioned your word was joyful, and we talked about New Year's resolutions and you made that post. And for me, it's magic. I want people to feel how magical it is and how fun it is to learn languages and communicate with different people from all over the world. So thank you for saying
Mhm.
that. And I catch the joyful positivity, bubbly feeling from your stuff. I really do. So
Well, that may be true, but my word was actually action.
action, right?
Although joyful's a good one. I'll keep that one in the bank for next year. I already got joyful. I've got that under
You
control.
do. You do.
After last year, who doesn't need a little more joy sprinkled on their
This
life?
this is good advice for people too, is think about that one word you can center on. What's that vibe that's going to kind of filter out through all that you do? You should whittle things down to a word, a sentence, an idea, and use it to center yourself. And it should align with who you are, how you feel, because that will influence what you do and what you write in your posts and stuff like that. So what's next for Yes, Still Talking? What can we expect to see in 2021? It's a new year.
It is. And well, you can expect just a lot more game nights coming to you in 2021, and all around fun times. Yeah.
I really liked the video you had recently with the ladies, and they showed the board
Oh,
game. That board game was super cool. That's like right up my alley. What was it called? The
yeah.
Goose Game or something? Path of the
Yeah. In Spanish, they call it la oca because oca is goose.
Uh-huh.
So I apparently it is a game that people play in English, but I didn't know it before coming to Spain.
It's super cool, and it gave me a lot of
Yeah.
inspiration because the spaces on the board match like a real life traveled
That was a
cat
special game board. Yeah. The
travel on.
one of the ladies that was in the game, she works with people who have an interest in doing the Camino de Santiago here in Spain.
Hmm.
Maria with Spanish for Camino. And she has this Camino de Santiago version of the La Oca of the game.
Ah,
And so we were using that game just to kind of like basically do a virtual Camino de Santiago, getting to travel the route. The version that we have here, where I live, is different. It doesn't have stops on the Camino de Santiago. So it's a little more, it's not as fun as her version.
I love that. It was
I
very
mean, once
cool.
you've done that one, you just are like, that's the version I need.
It's very
And she has a
cool.
paper that has the explanation of all the spaces.
Oh, so cool. So cool.
Yeah,
I'm really
it's really
going to
fun.
tap into that because I'm working on
Yes,
something.
that'll be perfect.
Yeah, it's not going to be a board game. I'm going to just use cards as the spaces of the board so you can
Mm-hmm.
shuffle the cards and put them out as spaces. But similar
Gotcha.
idea, you move to locations in language land and then you have to say
Yeah.
certain words.
So it'll be just like a map of the land.
Yeah, yeah, the board is kind of like a map, and I'm having the map of language land made now. So I got a lot of inspiration from that board game. That was super cool.
Hmm.
In conclusion, I would like to end with you giving my viewers a challenge in honor of your tradition on your channel of giving challenges to your viewers. Guys, if you haven't tuned into Vickie's channel, she has this great little tradition where she gives a challenge to her viewers at the end. I think that's a great idea. And she also lets her guests give challenges as well. So, Vickie, what would your challenge be to our viewers here today?
Well, I had a challenge all prepared, but I'm gonna do a changeroo here because there was something that you said that stuck with me, and I think that it will be the perfect challenge for all of our entrepreneurs listening. I challenge you to find a word that feels your heart, that beckons you. And that word is going to be your guide with your business. So I want you to write it in big, bold letters, put it somewhere that you can see it. Okay, you can put it on a little sticky note and stick it on your computer, but have it somewhere visible. And maybe it won't end up being the tagline for your business, but it could lead to whatever that tagline or further inspiration could be. So that's my challenge to you. Mine is action, and it's sitting right here on my computer now. Can't show it to you because it's stuck on it, but but that's what I challenge you to do.
I second that notion. My word is magical. And guys, just about every day, I'm sort of like repeating my mantra and writing down my same vision statement. And yeah, it might change after a few months or a few years, but you definitely need something to center
Yeah.
on. And
Well,
so with that, we've
feel
reached the
inspired.
end of our video today. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to help yourself and other like-minded people stay in tune with what we're doing here and support it. And Vickie, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck with all that you will do in 2021 and beyond. We will be watching.
Same to you. I will definitely be keeping my eye on what you're up to, Matthew.
All righty, bye for now.
Ciao.
Bye, guys.